Emily Anderson couldn't sleep. The summer night pressed warm against her bedroom window, crickets chirping their endless symphony in the Nevada desert beyond. Her latest project, a detailed map of theoretical quantum patterns she'd drawn from her mother's research papers, lay spread across her desk, illuminated by starlight. At 10 years old, she understood things that made her teachers nervous. The first sign something was wrong came when her tablet screen flickered. Then her glow-in-the-dark stars dimmed one by one, as if someone was gently blowing out countless tiny candles. Emily sat up in bed, her heart racing not with fear, but with a strange anticipation. The air felt electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. "Mom," she called out, but her voice seemed to fade inches from her lips, absorbed by the thickening air. The darkness between her stars began to pulse with a soft blue luminescence. In the master bedroom down the hall, Dr. Catherine Anderson's quantum alert system screamed to life. The former DARPA scientist rolled out of bed, her husband Jack already moving, 20 years of Navy SEAL training evident in his fluid motion. But the lights wouldn't respond to their commands, and their phones displayed only static. "Emily," Catherine's shout barely penetrated the strange dampening field that had descended over their home. Jack was already running, but the hallway seemed to stretch impossibly long before them. In her room, Emily grabbed her special pen, the one that wrote with ink that changed color under different lights. With quick strokes, she scrawled across her quantum pattern map. "They're coming for all of us." The blue light was everywhere now, seeping through her walls like water through paper. Across the globe, the same scene played out in countless variations. In Tokyo, a young boy reached for his gaming console as the light took him. In London, a girl clutched her physics textbook to her chest as she vanished. In Moscow, a child prodigy left half-finished chess moves on his board. The security cameras caught it all, when they worked. Pale threads of luminescence that defied normal light spectrums, passing through solid walls as if they weren't there. Children lifted gently from their beds, their forms dissolving into particles of light that scattered like dandelion seeds in a cosmic wind. Jack's shoulder hit Emily's door with enough force to crack the frame, but he was too late. The room was empty, the air shimmering with residual energy that made his combat-honed senses scream danger. Catherine stumbled in behind him, her quantum scanner whirring frantically. "The readings are impossible," she whispered, her scientific mind warring with maternal panic. "These patterns, they're like nothing we've ever seen. It's as if someone found a way to quantum tunnel entire human beings." On Emily's desk, her last message glowed faintly, the special ink reacting to traces of the alien light. Below it, her quantum pattern map showed something that would later prove crucial. She had predicted this in her own way, through the patterns she discovered in her mother's work. Within hours, the reports flooded in. 50,000 children, all between 8 and 12 years old, had vanished simultaneously across Earth. The pattern was precise, surgical. Only the brightest, those with specific cognitive markers, those who showed unusual aptitude for pattern recognition, creative problem-solving, or abstract thinking. The world erupted into chaos. Parents took to the streets. Governments mobilized military forces against an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Religious leaders called it the rapture. Scientists scrambled to explain the impossible. But in the Anderson household, Catherine stared at her daughter's last message through tears that refused to fall. Jack stood at the window, his trained eyes scanning the star-filled desert sky. Both knew, with the certainty that comes from years of facing the impossible in their respective fields, that this was just the beginning. On Emily's desk, unnoticed in the chaos, her quantum pattern map began to shift, the special ink responding to something no human instrument could detect. New patterns formed, resembling a child's game of connect the dots played across the stars themselves. Emily wasn't just taken. She was leaving them breadcrumbs. 3 days after the mass abduction, every screen on Earth flickered to life simultaneously. Cell phones lit up in pockets. Times Square billboards synchronized. Even dead devices sparked with new energy. The image that appeared struck humanity silent. A being of crystalline geometry, its translucent form shifting through colors like an aurora borealis captured in living glass. People of Earth, the entity's voice resonated in every human language at once. I am High Selector Vixthar of the Galactic Confederacy. Your children have been chosen. In the Andersons' makeshift command center, their garage converted into a quantum detection facility. Catherine's instruments exploded with data. She hadn't slept since Emily's disappearance. Her eyes rimmed red as she stared at readings that defied physics as humanity understood it. Jack, she called to her husband, who was coordinating with his former SEAL contacts. The transmission, it's using the same quantum signature as the abduction event. The crystalline being continued its announcement, its form pulsing with gentle colors meant to be soothing. Your young ones have been selected for the galaxy's most prestigious opportunity, the Educational Enhancement Program. They will become the future leaders of a greater cosmic society. Throughout the message, Catherine's quantum scanner kept chirping insistently. She adjusted its settings, focusing on the subtle fluctuations in the alien's transmission. There, hidden in the background radiation, almost imperceptible, was a pattern she recognized. The same pattern Emily had drawn in her notebook countless times. For millennia, we have guided promising species toward their greatest potential, Vixthar explained, his crystalline form shimmering with what appeared to be pride. Your children will be the next generation to benefit from our advanced teaching methodologies. Jack watched the transmission with the calculated calm of a warrior assessing an enemy. They're lying, he said flatly. 20 years of interrogation experience. Even with an alien, I can spot the tells. Look at the color shifts when they mention teaching methodologies. Catherine barely heard him. She was deep in the data, her fingers flying across keyboards. The pattern in the transmission was becoming clearer. It wasn't random interference. It was a message, encoded in the quantum noise. Emily's message. The alien ambassador continued outlining humanity's great fortune at being selected. But in secure facilities across the globe, others were noticing discrepancies. The NSA detected unusual data patterns in the transmission. The European Space Agency reported quantum anomalies that shouldn't be possible. And in hidden bunkers, military analysts noted the carefully constructed nature of the message. Too careful, too precise. Got it, Catherine whispered, her voice trembling. On her screen, decoded from the quantum static, was a simple message. Mom, they think we're simple. We're not. Watch the colors. Jack leaned in, his tactical mind already processing implications. The color shifts in the transmission. They're not random, Catherine finished. Emily and the others. They're piggybacking on the aliens' own communication technology. But how did they figure it out so fast? The answer came from an unexpected source, a classified report, quickly suppressed, but not before reaching certain eyes, detailed the Confederacy's internal assessment of humanity. Species shows remarkable neural plasticity in juvenile specimens, it read. Limited technological advancement suggests minimal resistance to integration protocols. Recommendation: Standard Development Path 23B, designated for primitive species with high adaptive potential. They didn't understand. They had evaluated humanity's children using their own rigid metrics, their own defined parameters of intelligence. They saw the lack of advanced technology as primitive. They saw creativity as chaos. They saw imagination as a flaw to be corrected. In the Andersons' garage, Catherine's screens lit up with more decoded messages, hidden in the quantum static of the alien's ongoing speech. Children across the galaxy, communicating through the very systems meant to contain them. Using math games they'd learned in school to encode messages, turning nursery rhymes into encryption keys. They think we're primitive, Jack said, a dangerous smile forming. That's good. They won't see us coming. On the main screen, High Selector Vixthar concluded his message with what he believed was a generous offer. Earth would be welcomed into the Galactic Confederacy as a protectorate, once its children were properly enhanced. In the quantum noise, Emily's final message of the transmission came through. "Mom, Dad, they don't know what stories are. We're teaching them, and they're scared." The galaxy's greatest mistake wasn't just taking Earth's children. It was assuming that primitive meant simple. They were about to learn the difference. The basement of St. Mary's Church had seen better days. Once used for bake sales and Sunday school, it now hummed with jury-rigged quantum detection equipment and tactical planning stations. Catherine Anderson stood before a group of 20 people, former Special Forces operators, scientists, hackers, and parents united by loss and determination. "The quantum signatures are like fingerprints," she explained, gesturing to the complex wavefront displays. "Each child's neural pattern creates unique fluctuations in the alien transmission network. We can track them, maybe even communicate." At the back of the room, Jack Anderson studied a holographic star map with Marcus Reynolds, his former squad mate from SEAL Team 6. 6 facilities, Marcus pointed out, all in different star systems, but following a pattern. Like a classroom seating chart, Sarah Martinez added. The former NSA cryptographer had lost her son Michael in the abduction. "They're organizing our children by what they consider learning aptitudes." The meeting was one of dozens happening simultaneously across the globe. They called it Operation Lionheart, a parent's courage made manifest. While governments fumbled through diplomatic channels and military leaders planned conventional responses, this shadow network moved with purpose. Catherine's quantum scanner chirped, the sound they'd all been waiting for. The room fell silent as she adjusted the frequencies. Emily's quantum signature pulsed on the main screen, stronger than ever. "They gave us access to their computers," Emily's message read, decoded from the quantum static. "Big mistake. Michael and Jun figured out their base code in 2 hours. They think teaching us their technology will make us easier to control." Jack smiled grimly. The aliens had no concept of Earth's gaming culture, of children who grew up solving complex puzzles for fun, who learned to hack and modify games before they could write cursive. "The other kids are different here," Emily's message continued. "They've never played pretend, never heard a story that wasn't approved. We're teaching them red light, green light. The supervisors think it's an obedience exercise." Catherine's hands flew across her keyboard, establishing a more stable connection through the quantum noise. "What about the other human children?" She typed back. The response came quickly. "We're organized. Remember how you taught me about resistance networks, Dad? We're using playground games to pass messages. The aliens don't understand duck, duck. Goose is actually a coordination exercise." Sarah Martinez leaned forward, her cryptographer's mind racing. "They're using children's games as cover for building a communication network." Brilliant. The aliens can't distinguish between play and planning because they've engineered that ability out of their own species. The quantum feed crackled with new information. Emily was sending technical data now. Security protocols, facility layouts, guard rotations, all gathered through observation games the children invented, turning their mandatory education sessions into reconnaissance opportunities. "We need more than information," Jack said, his tactical mind already formulating plans. "We need a way to fight back." Catherine's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. The quantum entanglement isn't just one way. Every time they transmit, they create links between their network and Earth. Links that could be used to hack their systems, Sarah suggested, already pulling up her custom code frameworks. "Better," Catherine smiled, "to show them what imagination looks like." The quantum scanner beeped again. Another message from Emily. "Mom, remember the bedtime stories about the Trojan horse? We're going to tell stories too. Stories that make their children ask questions they've never thought to ask before." The resistance members gathered around the planning table, each bringing their unique skills to the emerging strategy. Marcus coordinated with other military parents, establishing secure supply lines and training protocols. Sarah developed encryption methods based on childhood rhymes and games. Catherine worked to strengthen the quantum communication channels. In the corner, Jack studied his daughter's messages with fierce pride. The aliens had taken humanity's children thinking they were selecting easily moldable minds. Instead, they'd brought the most dangerously creative force in the galaxy right into their secure facilities. They thought they were getting students, he said to the room. Instead, they got revolution in its purest form. Kids who've never been taught something can't be done. On the quantum screens, more messages appeared as children across the galaxy found ways to pierce the static. Each one confirmed what they already knew. Humanity's greatest weapons weren't its guns or bombs or ships. They were its stories, its games, and its unwavering ability to imagine something better than what was. Operation Lionheart was just beginning, and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never give human children access to advanced technology and expect them to follow the rules. Catherine Anderson stared at her quantum display in horror, her hands trembling as she decoded Emily's latest transmission. Around her in the underground command center, the other parents fell silent, the weight of revelation heavy in the recycled air. It's not a school. Emily's message pulsed through the quantum static. It's a factory. They're trying to make us like them. But they didn't count on Minecraft. Jack leaned over his wife's shoulder, reading the decoded data stream. What do you mean, sweetheart? The response came in fragments, hidden in the background radiation of the alien facility's normal communications. Their education program is behavior modification, but we've been running secret building competitions in our heads during their sessions, teaching the other species kids how to imagine things that don't exist. The supervisors can't stop what they can't see. Sarah Martinez's station lit up with additional decoded messages from other facilities. Her son Michael's signal was particularly strong. They showed us their perfect society today. Everything planned, everything ordered. No one asks questions. No one creates anything new. They think that's peace. We showed them how to play Dungeons and Dragons. The truth assembled itself like a nightmare puzzle. The Galactic Confederacy's educational enhancement program wasn't about elevation. It was about elimination. Species after species, generation after generation, had their children enhanced until creativity and questioning became foreign concepts. Found their historical archives, came another message from Emily. They did this to the Zentari. Used to be artists, now they're administrators. The Krell were explorers, now they maintain databases. But humans, we're different. Our brains don't work like theirs. Catherine's scientific mind raced ahead. The neural plasticity they noted in their assessment. They thought it meant our children would be easier to program. But it means we adapt, Jack finished. We create. We overcome. New data streamed in from the children's hidden network. They'd been conducting their own investigation, turning their mandatory education sessions into reconnaissance opportunities. Every learning module was actually a sophisticated behavioral modification program. Every progress assessment was measuring their compliance with the Confederacy's rigid standards. But the human children had turned the tables. During meditation sessions meant to suppress creative thinking, they held mental storytelling contests. While studying the Confederacy's perfect society, they invented and shared new games. Their assigned neural interface devices, meant to monitor and modify their thoughts, became secret communication networks for sharing Earth's culture with alien children. The other kids are changing. Emily's next message reported. We taught the young Zentari how to draw things that don't exist. The Krell children are asking what-if questions for the first time in generations. The supervisors are panicking. Security footage, secretly recorded by the children and smuggled through their quantum network, showed the evidence. Alien children drawing impossible creatures in hidden corners. Young Zentari creating their first original art in centuries. Krell youth designing unauthorized improvements to standard systems. They call it contamination. Michael's message added. They've never seen anything like it. Human imagination spreads like a virus. Just by playing with us, just by learning our games, the other kids are remembering how to dream. The Resistance Command Center erupted into activity as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about rescuing Earth's children anymore. This was about freeing an entire galaxy from a system of control that had suppressed creativity and innovation for countless generations. Yesterday, Emily's final message of the session blinked through. During standard education period, we organized a multi-species game of make-believe. The supervisors tried to stop it, but they couldn't, because it was all happening in our heads. We imagined we were heroes saving the galaxy. The funny thing is, that's exactly what we're doing. Jack studied the tactical implications, while Catherine analyzed the quantum data patterns. The children's resistance wasn't just surviving the Confederacy's programming. It was actively reversing centuries of systematic suppression across multiple species. They thought they were taking our children to protect their perfect order, Catherine said softly. Instead, they brought chaos into their system. Beautiful, human chaos. The quantum display lit up with one last message from Emily. Mom, Dad, they're starting emergency protocols. They're scared of stories and games they can't control. But we're not stopping. Every bedtime story you ever told me, I'm telling them now. And the galaxy is waking up. Around the world, other resistance cells received similar messages. The Galactic Confederacy had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had labeled us primitive because we still told stories, still played games, still imagined impossible things. They never considered that these might be strengths rather than weaknesses. They were about to learn why imagination was the most powerful force in the universe. The Galactic Confederacy's central education facility orbited a binary star system, its crystalline spires reflecting double sunlight. Inside, Supervisor First Class Engsvith was experiencing something unprecedented. A headache. The latest behavioral analysis reports made no sense. Sir, a junior supervisor's voice wavered. The human children are singing. Meanwhile, in the St. Mary's Church basement on Earth, Catherine Anderson initiated Operation Storytime. Her quantum transmitters hummed with power as she prepared to broadcast the signal Emily and the other children had been waiting for. Remember, Jack addressed the assembled team. Timing is everything. The kids know their part. Marcus, is your strike team ready? Marcus Reynolds grinned, adjusting his tactical gear. 6 teams of former Special Forces operators, all parents, all very motivated. We're ready to crash their perfect party. Sarah Martinez's fingers flew across her keyboard. The quantum encryption is based on Ring Around the Rosie. They'll never crack it because they don't understand the concept of nursery rhymes. Above the alien facility, Emily Anderson led her part of the operation. She had gathered 300 children, human and alien, in what was supposed to be a standard meditation session. Instead, they sat in a circle, their minds linked through neural interfaces meant for educational programming. Once upon a time, Emily began, her voice carrying through the mental network. There was a galaxy that had forgotten how to dream. The story rippled through the neural net, carrying with it something the Confederacy's systems had never encountered: pure human imagination. As Emily spoke, the other children began adding their own elements to the tale, creating a sprawling collaborative narrative that overwhelmed the facility's monitoring systems. On Earth, Catherine watched the quantum readings spike. Now, she commanded. Jack's team struck first. Their ships, modified with technology reverse-engineered from Catherine's research, slipped through the Confederacy's defenses using flight patterns based on children's playground games. The alien targeting systems, designed to predict logical attack vectors, couldn't handle ships that moved like they were playing red light, green light in space. Inside the facility, Emily's story reached its climax, and the children remembered what the galaxy had forgotten: that the most powerful magic isn't in rules or order, but in the ability to imagine something new. As she spoke those words, Sarah activated her code. The facility's neural network, designed to suppress creative thought, instead began broadcasting every bedtime story, every fairy tale, every legend that the Earth children had shared with their alien friends. Supervisor Engsvith watched in horror as his perfect system descended into chaos. Alien children who had never questioned authority began asking why. Species that had been compliant for generations started inventing their own games. The neural suppression network, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of human creativity, crashed spectacularly. Security breach in Section 7. Alarms blared. But the guards couldn't respond effectively because the human children had taught their alien friends to play. The floor is lava. And now entire corridors were being treated as impassable by giggling youngsters who understood the power of collective imagination. Marcus's team breached the facility's outer defenses using tactics derived from video games. Complete unpredictability. These aliens never played Space Invaders. He laughed as his ship performed a maneuver that looked like a Pac-Man pattern. Catherine's quantum network lit up with messages from across the facility. The Zentari children remembered how to paint. Young Krell are designing spaceships shaped like dragons. The Moravian kids are writing their own stories. Emily's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting on all frequencies. You took us because you thought we were simple. But every human child knows something you forgot. The best stories are the ones where the ending surprises you. The facility's main control room fell to the resistance forces without a shot fired. The guards were too busy watching in fascination as their own children taught them how to play Simon Says. Jack found Emily in the central education chamber, leading a mixed group of human and alien children in what appeared to be an impromptu performance of The Wizard of Oz. Operation Storytime is a success, he reported back to Catherine. But I don't think we're going home yet. The kids are busy teaching the galaxy how to play. In her command center, Catherine smiled as new quantum signatures appeared. Alien children broadcasting their own stories for the first time in centuries. The Confederacy had wanted to enhance humanity's children. Instead, humanity's children had enhanced the galaxy. Mom. Emily's message pulsed through the quantum net. Can we stay a little longer? We're teaching them about plot twists, and they're just getting to the good part. Warning. Unauthorized narrative detected in Sector 7. The message flashed across every screen in the Confederacy's Grand Administrative Chamber. High Selector Vixthar's crystalline form shifted through shades of agitated purple as more reports flooded in. 3 more education facilities have reported complete system failures. A junior administrator reported their geometric form pulsing with distress. The cause appears to be stories about something called dinosaurs. In the captured Central Education Facility, Emily Anderson stood before a vast window overlooking the binary stars, surrounded by a growing audience of alien children, and increasingly, their curious parents. Her voice carried through the neural network, now repurposed as a storytelling channel. And that's how the Velociraptor learned to open doors, she concluded, watching with satisfaction as young Zentari minds lit up with possibilities they'd never considered before. But Velociraptors are extinct, a Krell child observed, their analytical minds struggling with the concept. How can we know they would learn such behaviors? Emily smiled. That's where imagination comes in. We look at the evidence, then ask, what if? The question rippled through the facility like a shockwave. What if had been systematically removed from the Confederacy's vocabulary generations ago. Now it was spreading like wildfire through the younger generation. Back on Earth, Catherine Anderson monitored the quantum frequencies with growing amazement. The change is exponential, she reported to the resistance leadership. Every story our children tell spawns 100 new ones from their alien friends. It's like they're remembering something they never knew they lost. Jack studied the tactical displays showing the spread of what the Confederacy was calling the human contamination. Standard military channels were being overwhelmed by children's rhymes and games. Alien defense systems crashed when they encountered spacecraft pilots flying with what they called Christopher Robin navigation, because the shortest distance between 2 points isn't always a straight line when you're playing poo sticks in space. They're trying to quarantine the affected facilities, Sarah Martinez reported, her screen showing Confederacy ship movements. But they don't understand. You can't quarantine an idea, especially not when it's being spread by kids who've turned hide and seek into an interstellar communication network. The quantum feeds brought constant updates from the children's ever-growing network. The Moravian Science Council is in chaos because their children started asking, "Why is the sky purple?" instead of accepting the standard color designation. Young Zentari artists are painting impossible creatures inspired by Earth's mythology. A group of Krell engineers under age 12 just submitted 300 patent applications for improvements to standard designs, all based on animals they learned about from Earth's children. In the Grand Administrative Chamber, High Selector Vixthar faced an unprecedented crisis. The perfect order of 10,000 years was unraveling because of bedtime stories and playground games. Reports poured in from across the galaxy. Emergency. Unauthorized modifications to standard education protocols detected. Children are requesting show and tell sessions. Critical alert. Neural compliance rates dropping. Subjects are exhibiting symptoms of curiosity and wonder. Warning. Geometric stability of architecture compromised by young designers requesting tree houses and secret hideouts. Emily's voice cut through their panic, broadcasting on all frequencies. You built a society based on answers, but every human child knows the real adventure begins with questions. The resistance forces, led by Jack and Marcus, found they hardly needed their carefully planned military tactics. The Confederacy's defenses were crumbling not from external attacks, but from internal transformation. How do you maintain rigid control of a society when its children have learned to play pretend? Catherine's quantum monitors recorded the moment the balance tipped. It wasn't a grand battle or a strategic victory. It was a young Confederacy administrator watching their child draw an impossible creature, asking, "Can you tell me its story?" The galaxy was remembering how to dream, one bedtime story at a time. "Mom," Emily's message pulsed through the quantum net. "I don't think they'll try to enhance any more species." The Zentari children just organized their first art show, and even the High Selector came to see it. You should have seen his colors when they explained what finger painting is. In the background of her transmission, the sounds of laughter and storytelling flowed across species barriers. The Confederacy had sought to perfect the galaxy through order and control. Instead, they were discovering that true perfection lies in the beautiful chaos of imagination set free. The Grand Council Chamber of the Galactic Confederacy had never witnessed such disorder. The crystalline walls, once perfectly geometric, now reflected chaotic patterns of light as thousands of species representatives argued, questioned, and most shockingly, imagined alternatives. Order. We must have order. High Selector Vixthar's form pulsed with desperate shades of gray and amber. But even as he called for stability, his own young offspring sat in the gallery, quietly drawing pictures of mythical earth creatures called unicorns. In the transformed Central Education Facility, now nicknamed the Big Playground by its residents, Emily Anderson coordinated what she called the Revolution of Wonder. The neural networks, originally designed for compliance programming, now hummed with creativity from a million young minds. The Confederacy built this network to control us, Emily explained to her growing coalition of human and alien children. But they forgot something important. When you connect imagination, it grows stronger. Catherine's quantum monitors on Earth track the cascade of change spreading through the galaxy. It's like watching a chain reaction of creativity, she told Jack and the Resistance leadership. Every story our children share spawns 100 new ones. Every game they teach creates new variations. The evidence was everywhere. Young Zentari, once the galaxy's most diligent record keepers, were now writing epic poetry about their ancestors' lost art. Krell children, bred for generations to maintain existing technology, were inventing new machines based on Earth fairy tales. Even the geometric perfection of Confederacy architecture was changing as young designers asked, "What if buildings could dance?" Sarah Martinez's monitoring station lit up with intercepted communications. Critical alert. Standard Education Module 7B compromised by introduction of show and tell activities. Emergency. Young citizens requesting establishment of art classes and music rooms. Warning. Geometric stability of administrative sector threatened by demand for playground equipment. But the most significant change came from an unexpected source. Alien parents, watching their children embrace creativity for the first time in generations, began to remember. The neural conditioning of centuries began to crack under the simple power of a child asking, "Why?" "Mom." Emily's message pulsed through the quantum net. "Something amazing is happening. The adult Centauri are starting to paint again. The Krell engineers are designing ships that look like sea creatures. The Confederacy can't stop it because their own children are leading the change." Jack, coordinating with resistance forces across the galaxy, reported a new phenomenon. Alien parents were actively protecting the spread of human creativity. When Confederacy loyalists tried to restrict access to contaminated facilities, they found themselves blocked by their own species. "You don't understand," a Centauri administrator told his superiors, his crystalline form shimmering with newfound colors. "My daughter taught me how to pretend yesterday. I had forgotten. We had all forgotten. How to see beyond what is." The quantum networks buzzed with unprecedented activity as alien children shared their first original stories. A Krell tale about a starship that dreamed of becoming a dancer. A Centauri epic about colors that hadn't been invented yet. A collaborative story by mixed species about a universe where rules were meant to be reimagined. Catherine's instruments recorded the moment the Confederacy's control truly began to crumble. It wasn't a dramatic declaration or a military victory. It was the sound of laughter. Pure, joyous, creative laughter, echoing through quantum channels never designed for such human expressions. In the Grand Council chamber, High Selector Vixthar faced the inevitable. His own daughter, inspired by Earth's children, stood before the assembly. "Father," she said, her crystalline form shimmering with colors the Confederacy had no names for, "let me tell you a story about a galaxy that woke up from a very long dream. The revolution wasn't fought with weapons or won with tactics. It was achieved through the simplest and most powerful of human gifts, the ability to imagine something new, and the courage to share that vision with others." Emily's final message of the day summed it up perfectly. "Mom, Dad, remember how you said stories can change the world? Turns out they can change a galaxy too. The Confederacy wanted to make us like them. Instead, we reminded them of who they used to be, and now they're remembering how to become something new." Across the galaxy, in countless homes and halls, children of 1,000 species gathered to share tales, to play games, to imagine impossible things. The perfect order of the Confederacy hadn't been destroyed. It had been transformed into something far more beautiful, a chaos of creativity, a symphony of stories, a universe remembering how to dream. 1 year after the Great Awakening, as the galaxy had taken to calling it, the transformed Central Education Facility hosted an unprecedented gathering. The once sterile halls now burst with color, walls covered in children's artwork, corridors echoing with laughter, and classrooms transformed into spaces of genuine discovery. Emily Anderson stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, her parents beaming proudly from the front row. At 12 years old, she had been chosen as the first speaker for the Young Minds Initiative. The council chamber itself reflected the changes. Gone were the rigid geometric patterns, replaced by an organic design that the young Centauri architects described as what happens when buildings learn to dance. A year ago, Emily began, her voice carrying through neural networks now used for sharing rather than control. "You took Earth's children because you thought we needed to be enhanced. Today I want to tell you a story about what enhancement really means." The assembled representatives, including former High Selector Vixthar, now simply Citizen Vixthar, listened with newfound wonder. His crystalline form sparkled with colors that the old Confederacy had no words for, colors that his daughter had taught him to see. Once upon a time, Emily continued, using the words that had helped change a galaxy, there was a civilization that forgot how to dream. They built perfect order, but lost perfect joy. They sought to teach, but forgot how to learn. Catherine watched her daughter from the audience, her quantum scanner now repurposed to record the symphony of imagination flowing through the galactic networks. Where once it had tracked neural compliance, now it captured the harmonies of a million species learning to create together. Jack sat beside her, holding her hand as Emily told their story. Around them, the evidence of change was everywhere. Young Zentari artists showcased sculptures of impossible creatures born from Earth myths. Krell engineers demonstrated starships designed by asking, "What if stars could dance?" Human children taught alien friends to play hopscotch across holographic star maps. The old educational enhancement program has been disbanded, Emily announced, replaced by something we call the Intergalactic Creative Exchange. Because true enhancement doesn't mean becoming more like others. It means becoming more fully yourself. Sarah Martinez, monitoring the quantum networks from her new position as Director of Interspecies Communications, reported unprecedented levels of creative energy flowing through the former Confederacy systems. The neural networks that once enforced compliance now carried songs, stories, and dreams across the stars. "We've learned from each other," Emily continued. Earth's children remembered how to be students while teaching others to dream. The Zentari remembered their art. The Krell rediscovered their love of exploration. And the Confederacy, she smiled at Vixthar, learned that perfect order isn't nearly as beautiful as perfect freedom. The changes were profound and permanent. The rigid education systems were transformed into open spaces of discovery. Military vessels were converted into exploration ships, their crews led by the insatiable curiosity of young minds. The once uniform architecture of Confederacy worlds bloomed with diversity, each building telling its own story. Jack watched with pride as Emily introduced her initiative, a program to ensure no species would ever again lose its capacity for wonder. The young minds of 1,000 worlds would be connected not for control, but for sharing dreams. And so, Emily concluded, her voice carrying to every corner of the transformed galaxy, the greatest mistake the Confederacy ever made was thinking that imagination needed to be controlled. Instead, it needed to be set free. Catherine's quantum monitors recorded the response, not in data or metrics, but in the joyous chaos of a galaxy remembering how to play. The neural networks hummed with creativity, stories, songs, games, and dreams flowing between stars like light. In the Chambers Gallery, human children sat with their alien friends, teaching them to make paper airplanes while learning to shape light into dancing patterns. The former High Selector's daughter had organized what she called a multi-species imagination workshop, where young minds from across the galaxy shared their visions of what could be. "Mom, Dad," Emily joined her parents after the session, her eyes bright with the light of infinite possibilities. "Remember when you used to worry that I spent too much time daydreaming?" Turns out the galaxy needed exactly that. The quantum networks pulsed with activity, not orders or protocols, but an endless stream of stories being shared across the stars. The Confederacy had sought to perfect the galaxy through control. Instead, they had discovered that true perfection lies in the beautiful chaos of imagination set free. And somewhere, in a classroom that had once been a neural programming center, a young Zentari child was teaching their human friend how to paint with light, while the Krell youth explained their plans for a starship powered by dreams. The galaxy's greatest mistake had become its greatest gift, the rediscovery of wonder, one story at a time.